Oh, that was super funny. I don't know if you saw me earlier, but a day in my life, and I hit go live, and then I saw something and I totally forgot that I had hit that, and I started recording and totally forgot that I was recording. So we're going to see if this audio with this headset's a little bit better. But what I first want to say is happy Monday. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I would love to hear from you what you did for this weekend, how you are differentiating between your weekdays and your weekends. So share something either meaningful or fun that you did this weekend. I did a long run. So I ran almost 5 miles, which is the longest that I've run in quite some time. It was snow raining. So in spite of that, I got to go out and actually did a new trail, which was awesome. And then did some long walks with Alec and the dog. So yesterday, I think I had like 20,000 steps. My legs are very tired today, but it was nice to get some fresh air. It definitely felt like a weekend. I didn't come into my office at all. I finished a book that I was reading just for fun. So that was really cool too. So Cher, I want to hear, what did you do on the weekend to help differentiate between the weekends and the weekdays, which I think it is so important that we did, because you need to kind of start your weekday refreshed. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I keep saying that. Life is a marathon. There are moments of sprints, but what we're in right now isn't going to go away tomorrow. It's not going to end in a day. So you've got to take care of yourself and figure out, how do you maintain momentum and energy to keep moving forward. What I really want to talk about today is this idea of planning. And it seems kind of crazy to be thinking about in the midst of a crisis. Should you be planning? Should you be looking at, we're at the start of Q2, right? So last week was the first part of Q2. Should you be planning? And if you are going to plan, what are the things that you need to be looking at relative to today's environment? And I have heard from multiple business owners this idea of, the year started out really, really good. I was looking at my trends and I was on track to hit these big goals that I had hit for myself. And then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off, right? And the wheels fell off from everybody. I think in these moments, there can be a tendency when that happens to either completely abandon the goal or to just charge forward and say, I'm going to still hit that goal no matter what. What I'm asking you to do is something in the middle, to say, what do you need to let go of so that you can move forward? So the reality that existed when you did your 2020 planning is not the reality that exists today. Things change. And that is actually one of the reasons why having a plan is in place is so important, because it gives you something that you can go back to and look at and say, okay, before I was panicked, before things were crazy, I created some strategies and some tools. And what of those tools do I need to keep? But also, which of those do I need to get rid of? So for example, when I look at my 2020 plan, a big portion of my 2020 plan was doing live one-time trainings for corporations that wanted to invest in their sales teams around creating some motivation, some inspiration, and some strategies. So a big portion of my revenue plan for 2020 was based on acquiring new clients, where I went in and did one-time in-person half-day trainings. Clearly, that is not something that my customers are thinking about right now in this time. So I need to let go of that the way I had envisioned if I want to move forward from my plan. It's important to recognize that maybe we need to let go of a specific revenue number we wanted to hit. Maybe we needed to let go of a specific goal around how we were going to manage our time. Maybe it's a specific tactic or strategy or revenue model. But until you can decide what it is that you're willing to and need to let go of, it's really hard to look on the table and see what's left. So what I want to encourage you to do today is to think about this from the standpoint of, given what you were planning for 2020 versus what the reality is today, what needs to change? And not just what needs to change, but specifically, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to say, you know what? It's not the year for that. That's a great idea, but we're going to table that and put that aside. We're just going to take that off the table. Because once you start to take things off the table, you start to create room. And if you have room in your plan and room in your schedule, you can start to make some more creative decisions about what you can add in. Oftentimes, we try to add things in before we start to take things off. And, if you have ideas, brainstorm them, put them on a piece of paper, put them in your notes on your phone, however you like to track your brainstorming ideas. I'm not saying not to, honor those ideas that come up. But what I am saying is that if you need to revisit your goals and your plans and your process for 2020, really spend some time thinking about what needs to be let go of. It might be a way of thinking. It might be just a mental thought process. It might be a task that no longer serves you, right? So for me, right, one of my core action items always is to create connections. And creating connections for me looks like going out into my community and meeting people in person, face to face. You know what? I got to let that go. That's got to go, right? And so then once I say, okay, my goal is no longer to go to 2 networking events a week or 8 networking events a month, I can say, but connection's still important to me, right? I've let go of that. I've let go of this idea of how something's going to happen, but I still want to create connections. So how do I do that now, right? What does that look like now? But if I don't take the time to be honest with myself about what needs to get off the list, what needs to be eradicated from my plan, that might have been kind of a strong word, it's really hard to have the room to solve the right problem. And, I'm going to be honest, part of what got me thinking about this today is between Friday and Monday, I had multiple conversations with business owners around this idea of I had these great goals, things were going really well, and now I'm just writing off 2020. And I love that idea of like, okay, we're just going to move forward. But what I don't want is to say, maybe I'm letting go of that goal that I had, that specific number or that specific path, but I don't have to let go of having goals, right? And so to use discernment about, am I saying I'm letting go of it because I'm scared? Or is this truly something that I need to let go of to create more room for something in the future? And be mindful about, intentional about the things that you need to let go of. So for me, it might be letting go of this idea that I'm not going to drink wine from home. I'm just like kind of riffing here. This isn't actually something that I had on my plate, but right, because now I'm going to be home all the time. And sometimes I want to have a glass of wine to reconnect. I'm going to let go of that goal and expectation. So really thinking about this from the standpoint of, are there expectations that you need to let go of? Are there thought processes? Are there processes in terms of how you want to reach a specific goal? Are there tactics and strategies that you need to let go of? Because when you can start to just let go of things, no matter how important they are or how sacred they felt in the moment, you can start to have the freedom to think about new ideas. It reminds me of that analogy of, right, if you give a monkey, he puts his hand in the coconut, there's a hole in the coconut, he puts his hand in the coconut, but he won't, and then his hand's stuck because he has a fist, so he can't get the hand out. And you have to let go of what you are holding on to have the freedom then to go find other food sources, if you will. And this is so true in our businesses too, that sometimes we hold sacred to these ideas, these plans, these goals, these expectations, and they keep us stuck. They keep us trapped given where we're at today. And so spend some time discerning what is it that you can get rid of so that you can then have the freedom to move about and figure out what new opportunities there are. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling stuck, instead of starting with what to add on, start with what you can let go of And when you think about what you can let go of, you have a lot of power then to see where there are gaps, to see where there are opportunities, to see where there is space. And we get creative when there's space. So share with me what it is that you are letting go of, whether it's an expectation, right? So my expectation might be that I'm going to the gym 3 times a week. Well, clearly I'm not going to the gym any times a week. So I'm going to let go of that expectation. Maybe the expectation is a revenue goal. Maybe it's a revenue stream. Maybe it's a way of connecting with people in your community. Maybe it's hiring and onboarding new team members, right? But there are certain things that, given today's reality, maybe it's a way of thinking, right? Thinking about your community, thinking about your business, thinking about your partnerships. What are those things that you can let go of so that you can create the space to move forward? And sometimes when we let go of things, there's a little bit of a grieving process. And to let yourself have that, to say, I was really excited about this goal that I had set for my business around doing a focused initiative around in-person trainings for companies that wanted to support their sales teams and their sales divisions. It can be okay to be disappointed that I'm not going to do that this year, and to say, okay, let myself have the space to be sad about that. Or it might be, I really miss going to these networking events, right? Like, one thing that's been on my list is getting new branding photos. I have to let go of that for a while. Like, I'm getting ready to launch a new program at the end of the month, and I was hoping to have updated branding photos that were more focused on spring versus winter and reflective of where I am right now. That's not going to happen. Okay, I've got to let go of that idea, that vision that I had. It's not going to look the way I thought it looked. Let it go, right? It's like that Frozen song, let it go. You don't want me to sing. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to stay focused here, but just give yourself the time to figure out what are the things that you need to let go of. Take them off. Like, if you're going through your old business plan, cross it off, right? If you had a revenue number and you're like, based on my business, I got to let go of that goal this year, cross it off, right? Give yourself let it be ceremonial. Let it be like, okay, I'm going to rip that up and I'm going to just throw it in the fireplace, or I'm going to throw it in the fire pit out in the backyard. I'm going to let it go. Like, I'm going to consciously choose to let go of my ideas, my expectations, my goals, my strategies, and my processes that aren't going to work in today's reality, that aren't going to work for the next 6 months. I'm going to just say goodbye to those. And I'm going to let myself be frustrated. I'm going to let myself be sad. I'm going to let myself be disappointed. I'm going to let myself say, it sucks that I really had these big plans for this year, and I was making headway towards that, and that's not going to happen anymore. But once after you've done that, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, that's what opens up the space to figure out how to create planning from a place of what's happening right now, based on the problems that your customers have right now and the solutions that you can offer right now. So, but first you've got to just create that space. It's the idea of, I know for me, every time I clean out my closet, all of a sudden I feel like I have so much more to wear. When there are too many things and they don't fit and they're not in alignment and you're not going to use them, but they're still sitting there on the piece of paper in front of you or your plan that you wrote down, it just feels cluttered and you can't see through to what is actually there and still relevant. And so pruning, this idea of pruning and getting rid of what's not going to work, is going to help you create so much more and see with so much more clarity to create what is going to work. The other example I was going to use about this is I have been getting these like Ipsy subscriptions and FabFitFit, and I have all this skincare stuff and all this makeup. And then I was out in Portland a couple months ago and I bought a new primer and a new foundation that I love, and a blush, and I love them. And I don't use anything else now for my makeup. And I'm like, why do I still have these, right? I need to let go of them. They're just junk now. And the things that are in your business plan, the expectations you had, the strategies you had, the thinking processes that you had that aren't aligned in today's environment, they're cluttering up your plan. They're cluttering up your opportunity. They are making it harder for you to see what is actually truly there, and they're making you less productive. So be mindful, be intentional, go through your 2020 plan, look at your 2020 goals, and take a marker to it and X off what isn't going to work. Just let it go, right? Like, give yourself the satisfaction of making it official that this is not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen the way I thought it was. The goal is going to change. The path is going to change. The process is going to change. The way I'm thinking about it is going to change. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to just check it off, and I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm going to give myself the time to grieve it, to be frustrated, and then I'm going to move forward and create a new plan based on what is still relevant. So share in the comments first, say hi. I'd love to hear from you if you're watching, and then share one thing that you are going to intentionally let go of so that you can move forward with more clarity, more ease, and more creativity in your business. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I shared with you, one of the things that I'm going to be letting go of is this idea around in-person trainings that was a hyper focus for me for 2020. That's off the list for right now. Doesn't mean it can't come back on later on in 2020 in Q4 or in 2021. But for right now, it's out of the plan. I'm going to exit out. That's not in the business plan anymore. It's not in the revenue plan. So share with me one thing that you are going to get rid of so that you can move forward, or let go of so that you can move forward, and kind of think of that idea of, right, the monkey's hand in the cookie jar. It's like you've got all this stuff, but you can't get your hand out if you don't let go. So no matter how tempting it is, if you can't get your hand out to move forward, it's not going to help you. So be intentional and proactive about letting go of the things that are no longer relevant, are no longer going to be doable, are no longer going to light you up, that are no longer going to be of service to your customers. Let them go. And that's okay. And then we're going to put new things in. That's the important thing. We're going to put new things in. So, but first, the first step this week in terms of planning, given today's reality, is to take the hard step of saying, I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to let it go. Didn't want to, but I'm going to let it go. So then I have the space to move forward, and not just mentally, but I'm going to actually physically take it off the list, take it off the piece of paper, take it off the vision board, whatever it is that you use for your planning. Don't have it on there anymore. Take it off, and we can revisit it later, and we can put on some new things that might be even better and more rewarding given today's environment. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be hopping on again, probably around 10 o'clock tomorrow. It looks like that's actually pretty open in my schedule. And we're going to be talking about, now that you have this extra space, how do you fill in that planning gap for what was there? So that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. If you have questions about how you can continue to grow and thrive and create predictable profits and consistent cash flow in your business during this time, send me a message and I will be happy to take that on these Facebook Lives. We are going to be live every day between now and at least the end of the month. So stay tuned and let me know how I can be of service to you. I will see you tomorrow.